Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're taking a little time travel trip back to the Industrial Revolution. We're going to look at how early factory workers absolutely fought tooth and nail for the basic workplace rights that we kind of take for granted today, right? Like when you think of a modern job, you naturally expect things like weekends, 8-hour shifts, and a safe environment. But those didn't just magically appear out of nowhere. They were hard-won. So let's dive into the what, the why, and the how of a massive historical shift that literally redefined our daily lives. Okay, so here is our roadmap for today. 1. The need for change. 2. How workers found their voice. 3. The power of strikes. 4. Reforms that change daily life. And finally, 5. Education guided by morality. All right, Section 1. The need for change and the harsh realities of early industry. I want you to keep this central question in the back of your mind as we go through this era. Why did workers form labor unions? Like, what actually drove everyday, hardworking people to suddenly take massive risks? Because they were risking their livelihoods, their family's security, and even their own physical safety. To really get it, we have to understand the world they were living in at the time. Simply put, poor working conditions led workers to demand change. And when I say poor, I mean environments that were incredibly dangerous and completely unforgiving. Just picture this. You're working 14, maybe 16-hour days, 6 days a week, standing right next to exposed, heavy machinery with absolutely zero safety mechanisms. Textile workers were literally breathing in thick dust that just coated their lungs day after day. Coal miners, they were working in near darkness, always under the constant threat of cave-ins. And workers' comp? Yeah, that didn't exist. If you got hurt on the job, you were just fired, replaced the exact same day. So basic human survival really fueled this massive grassroots push for reform. Now, the drive to fix these terrible conditions connects really deeply to a biblical mandate. Let's look at Proverbs 31:9. Speak up and judge fairly, defend the rights of the poor and needy. For a lot of the early social reformers, defending the vulnerable wasn't just, some political talking point or an economic strategy. It was rooted in spiritual truth. Recognizing the inherent dignity of the worker became a driving moral force behind this entire movement to improve industrial life. Moving into Section 2, How Workers Found Their Voice and the Power of Unity. A labor union is basically workers joining together to have more negotiating power with employers. Just imagine you're one single worker facing off against a wealthy factory owner. If you complain about the grueling hours or the dangerous machines, you can easily be fired, replaced by the next desperate person in line, and totally ignored. But workers soon realized a profound truth. While one voice is just a whisper you can brush off, thousands of voices speaking together, that creates a roar you absolutely cannot ignore. Unions gave workers a collective voice, and this collective action was the absolute key to their strategy. It fundamentally leveled the playing field. Instead of relying on the changing whims of individual factory owners, everyday citizens suddenly had the leverage they needed to sit down at the negotiating table. They could finally demand to be treated as equals, capable of securing real binding contracts, instead of just being treated as disposable parts in an industrial machine. All right, Section 3, the power of strikes, demanding better conditions. So what happens if the factory owners just plug their ears and refuse to listen or negotiate? What was the primary tool unions used to actually force their hand? Let's talk about what a strike is and how it works in practice. A strike is an organized work stoppage used to demand better pay and conditions. This meant the workers agreed, completely as a unified group, to halt factory production. It's essentially a strategic game of economic leverage. Think about it. If the workers walk out and the machines aren't running, the factory produces nothing. If the factory produces nothing, it isn't making any money. Striking was a highly effective way of hitting employers right in their wallets, forcing them to pause their business until they addressed the workers' demands. Now, strikes were risky, but they were often necessary for change. Because going on strike was not some casual decision. It meant potentially losing your only source of income. Workers missed paychecks they desperately needed to feed their families. And early strikes, they were often met with serious hostility, so participants faced harsh retaliation. They could be evicted from company-owned housing, physically attacked by private guards, or blacklisted, meaning their names were circulated to other employers so they could never find work again. Yet despite these immense personal risks, taking that stand was a necessary step to jolt the system into meaningful change. Section 4, Reforms that Change Daily Life and the Impact of Persistent Advocacy. This whole journey followed a pretty clear historical path. First, it began organically with the immense suffering caused by unsafe conditions in those early factories. That shared daily hardship pushed everyday people to form unions, seeking the protection of a collective voice. When owners refused to listen, workers escalated their tactics by organizing massive strikes. Finally, the public disruption and persistent advocacy from those strikes culminated in the government stepping in to pass strict labor laws. It's really a powerful blueprint showing how citizens can unite to successfully reform their society. And because they never gave up, workers won monumental reforms that fundamentally shape our lives today. They successfully fought to limit child labor, ensuring that an 8-year-old would spend their day learning in a classroom instead of hauling carts in a dangerous coal mine. They established minimum wages so that a full day of hard work could actually earn a person a fair living. And they mandated safer workplaces, introducing vital protections like fire escapes, proper ventilation, and guardrails. We owe concepts like the weekend and basic workplace safety directly to these movements. Finally, Section 5, Education Guided by Morality, the HeroesMart Academy Philosophy. The core philosophy we're talking about here is straightforward but super profound. Education without morality will hurt. True education absolutely has to be intertwined with biblical morality. Think about those historical factory owners of the Industrial Revolution. Many of them were highly educated, brilliant innovators who built massive empires. But without a strong moral compass guiding how they treated their fellow human beings, their intellect and business acumen only led to systems that deeply hurt and exploited their workers. Knowledge alone is simply not enough. This directly reflects the truth found in Romans 8:6-7, which promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. Keeping a spiritual mindset isn't just about rigidly following a set of rules. It's genuinely the promised path to true peace. In the context of our history lesson, a spiritual mind aligns your intellect with deep empathy. It is the recognition that true success isn't just about maximizing profit margins, but about treating others with fundamental human dignity. So, to wrap up our explainer today, here are your key insights. Historically, unions gave workers a much-needed collective voice, and strikes provided the economic leverage to force necessary change. That persistent advocacy forged the protective labor laws we literally rely on today. But on a deeper level, we see that spiritual minds find lasting peace. Connecting the historical triumph of labor unions to the lifelong benefits of spiritual wisdom shows us exactly how to build a society that is both technologically advanced and deeply just. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder as you reflect on the workers of the past and your own education today. What is the point of being smart and supposedly educated if you continue to make bad choices that end up hurting others? Let that question guide your learning, let it ground your morality, and I absolutely cannot wait to see you in our next explainer.